the end of this book. It's 2 volumes here, Kulam B'Chachma. So then they have parparois, and I need to translate that, but vignettes of Vertlach. So I share with you too the Rebbe's humor. I mean, I'm hesitating is because this is, if you don't, it is the height of foolishness. The height of foolishness. I won't even say arrogance because that's foolishness. It's not arrogant, just stupid. To try and understand a tzaddik in the way chula. But there's things that we see. I mean, just an observation mitzad das tachten. Mitzad das tachten, the Rebbe's humor. First of all, it wasn't manifest that often. Rebbe smiled, but humor. The Rebbe in a full-blown laughter. I don't think you ever saw such a thing. There's no picture. The Frierdiker Rebbe, yeah. The pictures of the Frierdiker Rebbe with laughing the whole face and in a full throttle laughter. It's almost not imaginable to see the Rebbe this way. So I'll tell you the 2 humorous anecdotes and what I see common to them. So once he said, they don't bring the sources here. This is the early years, Shashod. A lot of his humor was the way thing in Cheder, what they said in Cheder to the kids. So he said like this, that once in Cheder they used to say that, so how do you get a clean bill of health from the doctor? You have a problem with your foot. How do you get a clean bill of health? You show him the other foot. So that's joke number 1. Similar is, this I think the Rebbe said, the next story could be with Simchas Torah or whenever it was big noise in 770, and the Gaboyim are screaming, or maybe it was by a cough, not a cough, it's by Fabrengen, Shah, Stille, Shah. So the Rebbe smiles and says the following. He says in the days of bygone, when they wanted to describe to a Cheder child who never saw the capital city, the capital city, yeah. What is it? What is a melech? So the child doesn't have anything to relate to this with the capital and the king. So they would tell a child like this. You know, children would say the Melamed, that when the Tata Abba sleeps, so Mami goes around and the children, and they say, Shah still, Tati is sleeping. Now imagine that when the Tsar, the minister of the king, goes to sleep, that then all the Mesharsim, all of the people that work in the home, are all going around the Machrizim and they're announcing, quiet, the minister is speaking. Could you imagine when the king is sleeping? So then all the citizens of the country are shouting, quiet, quiet, the king is sleeping. What's the irony here is? The greater the noise. He was saying that the Shah still, to keep quiet, is making a bigger tumult than the noise. The
shushers are the loudest.
The shushka is the loudest. So when the king, that was laughing, so when the king is sleeping, so every citizen is up, is marching around, quiet, Shah still, the melech schläft. I'm just, my observation for these 2 humorous anecdotes. We just told another kind of joke that Rebbe told once, that in Cheder they used to say that if how do you get a good bill of health from the doctor? Your foot, one of your foot is hurt. You show him the good foot. So, what's the point of this story? I think it just at least brings out that for the Rebbe, wasting time was you're doing something and it's futile. It's bringing the opposite result. I say in a humorous way, but this is very big thing by the Rebbe, that every moment is given by the Eibishter to carry out the mission. We see this by Fabrengens often. If, excuse me, but if there's any time you saw the Rebbe a little bit annoyed, it was when they're wasting time. Because the Rebbe was asking for something, whatever it is. It didn't happen often. Someone's supposed to say something or whatever. They would wait, and then no. Every second is accounted for. I remember that when I was a kid in Australia, this was in the 70s, I remember hearing the story, actually, maybe you saw the article. So the New York Times wrote an article on the Rebbe. And the journalist submitted it to the Rebbe before publication, just for the Rebbe's approval. So he wrote there that for the Rebbe, every second is precious and accounted for. The Rebbe crossed it out and wrote every moment, every minute or something. In other words, yeah, it was really saying, yes, every second is the one to say, but every minute, yeah, this is like he gave the approval. And this he tries in the present tense to instill in us as well the preciousness of every moment and of every opportunity. It's not just in time, but every opportunity and every aspect of the world. What am I doing? Every aspect of the world is there. Hashem created it for His glory. So it has to be used, engaged and used in Avodas Hashem. Okay.